Hey guys, Harry here from the Art Gear Guy. Thank you so much for joining me today. As you can see here, I've got a review of the Tombow Irojiten. Now, I actually have done a review of these pencils. It was way back when I first started doing reviews. Back then, I only had one set. It was this set here. It was the third box, which has volumes 7, 8, and 9 in it. But back then, when I was doing reviews, I would do a swatch, do maybe a little bit of blending and a little bit of layering. I would contact the company and ask a couple of questions like Lightfast or whether they were at wax or oil. And that would be about it. But now, obviously, I understand so much more about colored pencils. I understand much more about paper. And so I really wanted to get back around to doing these pencils. But I only wanted to do it once I had eventually, over time, saved up and bought the full range. I thought if I was going to do it again, I needed to have all the pencils to show the entire range. And obviously now Tombow have brought out, as well as the 90 pencils that are in these sets, an extra 10 colours to make it up to 100. Now, so I'll show you the extra 10 colours in a second, but let me first break down these sets here and explain to you how, if you want to buy these pencils, say you don't want to go out and buy them all at the one time, you want to buy a box and then just keep coming back and buying the next box and the next box, how you can go about doing that and how you can find out which box you have and which box you need, because There are differences, obviously, but I'll get to that in a second. So if you look at the spine of the box here, so this is the first box. And in the first box, you can see here on the spine, it has a kingfisher, but it also has the number 1 at the bottom. But also along the spine here, it says that it's got volume 1, 2, and 3, and it tells you the type of pencils that's inside each volume. So volume 1 has pale tones, volume 2 has vivid tones, and volume 3 has deep tones. What they mean by volumes is that these pencils are little boxes, little like booklets. They look like little booklets, and when you open them, you've got the pencils inside. Each little booklet has 10 pencils in it. On the spine of the book, it says Irojiten. And then it'll say the volume number and the type of pencils that's in it. And on the front of the book, it'll also say, color dictionary, Irojiten. Then it says the 10 colored pencils. It'll tell you the volume that you have, and then it has the Tombow logo. So they're actually really gorgeous little sets to have. If you cast your mind back to some of the reviews I've recently done of like the Marco Tribute and the Phoenix colored pencils, they were in these little booklet box things. But the Tombow Irojiten, to the best of my knowledge, were the first ones to really come out with these beautiful little packages, and they really do look gorgeous, because when they're sat on your desk or on a shelf or something like that, they just look like little books. With the first set, we have the number 1 at the bottom here. Then it says volumes 1, 2, and 3. Along the spine of the box, that's where you get this information. And it'll say pale tone 1, vivid tone 1, and deep tone 1. If you turn the box, like the entire booklet thing over, your individual boxes of 10 pencils will also have this information on them. So whenever you display them, you can display them with the spine showing towards you, or the actual spine of the books showing towards you. The next box here, as you can see, is number 2, and that has volume 4, which is pale tone 2, volume 5, which is deep tone 2, and volume 6, which is light greyish tone 1, because with volumes 1 and 2, they were both pale tone and deep tone as well. That's why these are numbered pale tone 2 and deep tone 2. Again, with the the second box, there's a little picture of an orange here on the spine, and then on the front there's a picture of a cactus. Obviously just showing you the type of colours that's inside these boxes. And then the third box here is, obviously it's got number 3 here on the spine, and this is volume 7, which is the fluorescent, volume 8, which is the very pale tones, and volume 9, which is the dull tones. Now I'm going to show you the actual colours that's inside these boxes. Now you'll be able to see images coming up on your screen, and then I'll get round and I'll show you the 10 additional colours, the 10 additional colours that have been added onto this set. So as you can see here, so the first booklet that I'm showing you here, obviously inside these booklets as well, you can see here that the name of each individual colour is on the lid. So when you open the lid up, you can see here the name and the numbers and everything corresponding to each pencil that should be inside this booklet. And so the first pencils I'm showing you here is volume 1, which is pale tone 1. Volume 2, which is the vivid tone 1. You can see all these colours here, they're gorgeous. And then volume 3, which is the deep tone 1. And this is all 3 of those, like all 30 colours together. So this is the first box, which has volume 1, 2 and 3, all of the colours together. The next box holds volume 4, which you can see here is the pale tone 2. Volume 5, which is the deep tone 2. And then volume 6, which is the light greyish tone 1. And then again, you can see all 3 boxes here together, so you can see the colours of that set all together there, all 30 of them. And then finally here we have the third box, which is volume 7, and that is the fluorescence. You can see there all the fluorescent colours. Volume 8, which is the very pale tone, and then volume 9, which is the dull tones, and then obviously you can see all of these colours together laid out side by side. Now I am going to show you these colours on like swatched out properly, but I'll get to that in a second. So the 10 extra colours that come, you can see the pencils here laid out. The colours that they've selected here for the extra 10 is this russet brown, sepia, silver, like a silver grey, deep sea, scarring, rush, wild grape, yellow, scarlet. There's like a bubblegum pink there, and it in there as well. There's a nice selection within those 10, but they've obviously selected these 10 colours to complement the 90 that they already have, and I think they've done it well, and you'll see that in a second with the swatch. Before we get to the swatch, just let me show you the pencils themselves. So as you can see, the pencils themselves are absolutely beautiful. They've got this gorgeous white barrel, and then on the very end here they have an inch long pigment identifier. On one side of the barrel we have there's a number here, and then we have the Tombow logo and the Tombow name, and then on the opposite side of that we have the pigment name. There's an alphanumeric number, which I'll get to in a second, and then there is the printed on the pigment identifier is just the word Irojiten. Now, the number that is the alphanumeric number that is just after the pigment, it's best that I show you this on what that represents on the swatch. Okay, so this is the first swatch that I'm going to show you. So the top 10 colours here that you can see are the additional 10 colours that Tombow have added to the range. Every colour that's in that 10 along the barrel of those pencils right after the pigment name is the letter EX and then a number, and the numbers range from 1 to 10. Now EX indicates that this is the extra set that has been added on to the range, and obviously then the number on top of that. The next colours here that you can see, so I've got three rows. There's 10 pencils in each row, and so this is the colours here that you can see now is from the first box, which has volume 1, volume 2 and volume 3. So the first 10 colours that you can see here is the volume 1 pale tones, and you can see there each pigment name has a P and then a number beside it, the P indicating that it's a pale tone. Now these colours are numbered from 1 to 10, and that's important because if you remember, cast your mind back what I was just telling you there, there's a pale tone, vivid tone, and then in the next box there's a pale tone 2 and a vivid tone 2. Below that we have here the vivid tone, volume 2, and again the pigment name is on those, along with V1 all the way to V10. And then the final colours, set of 10 colours in that set, is the deep tones. And again, that's just the letter D to indicate that it's part of the deep tones, and then 1 to 10. So the next colours here that we see is from the second box, which is volumes 4, 5 and 6. This is the box that has the pale tone 2 and the deep tone 2, but it obviously, rather than trying to put additional letters on here, they've just continued the colour number. So with the pale tone 2, they're numbered 11 to 20. Okay, so pale tones, there's 20 in total, there's 20 colours from the pale tone range, and then for the deep tones, again, it's the same thing, D11 all the way up to D20. And that's just how to help, categorize these pencils, I guess. The volume 6 here, which is a light greyish tone, you can see here they're numbered 1 to 10, and there's the pigment name and then LG. So LG1, LG2, all the way up to LG10. And then finally here we have the third box, which has volumes 7, which is the fluorescent, volume 8, which is the very pale tone, and then volume 9, which is the dull tone. And as you can see here, where the fluorescents are, it just says F1 to F10. With the very pale tones, again, that's VP1 to VP10, and then for the dull tones, it's just DL1 to DL10. So that's just how Tombow have numbered and categorized their pencils. But you can see here from the swatch, and if this is going too fast for you, I will have all of these swatches over on the written review, where you can go across, click on them, and scan the colours yourself. But you'll be able to see it's all very clear over it. I find it easier to write these things out and lay them out in writing as opposed to talking, because I think when you see what I have over on the written review, you'll understand what colours goes into what set. And just in case, like I say, it's just in case you want to go out and purchase one set, maybe you don't like the look of the fluorescence or what have you. The volume 7, 8 and 9, maybe those colours just don't appeal to you, and so you'd rather go with the other two sets. This swatch will help you get an understanding of what colours are available, as like I say, as well as the additional 10. Okay, so as is always the case, I do just a test here on some black paper. Now, this test doesn't say whether the pencils are good or bad or anything like that. It just shows the level of translucency or opaqueness to the actual core of the coloured pencils. Now, sometimes you might find in a set that, you know, half of the set is translucent and the other half are opaque or whatever. It's like I say, this doesn't determine whether the pencils are good or bad. Some colored pencil artists just prefer one type of pencil than the other. And so that's the only reason why I do this test, just to give you a little bit of an insight into what they look like on black paper. So I'm using the same 4 colors that you will see me use in the layer and blending test. I always do that. I just use the same 4: red, green, blue, and yellow. So just let's get on with it here. Incidentally, so when I do this test as well, all I'm doing is just putting a heavy application down. There's no layering needed or anything like that. You get to see the layering test and ability in the test I'm going to show you in a second, and also in the artwork that I've done. But incidentally, one thing that I did notice about the entirety of the 100 colored pencils in the Tombow Irojiten set is that there is no white. Now, I only realized that when I came to doing this black paper test, because I always do a white pencil test as well as the 4 colors, and it just dawned on me at that point that there is no white. I mean, like, there are pale colors in there. There's an eggshell, which is close to white, but it's not white. I think obviously just Tombow just don't see the need for a white pencil, which there really isn't in colored pencil art. A lot of colored pencil artists will use like a blender, a blending pencil, or odorless mineral spirits or something like that. But this is it. So anyway, as you can see here with this test here, this is the yellow, red, blue, and green that I've done, and I'm actually really quite surprised. Just let me give you, I'll zoom in a second. I've got to get some color on this black paper, otherwise the camera will just fight to focus in on the blackness. Okay, so they in terms of opaqueness, they turned out a lot better than what I was expecting. Because it's quite a hard core on the Tombow Irojiten, which is why I talk about, you know, the different types of paper in a second. But and over on the written review, I go into quite in-depth detail about the different type of paper that I think these pencils best work well with. But I wasn't really expecting these pencils to be as opaque as what they have turned out to be on this black paper. I was expecting them to be a lot more translucent. So that's a pleasant surprise for me personally. But anyway, this is what it looks like. And as always, any images that you see here on this video, you can go across. They will be over in the written review of this. And as I always say, if you need to inspect the image a little better, just click on the image. It will enlarge automatically, and then you can just kind of inspect it at your own leisure. So as I mentioned earlier on, I have done some artwork with these, and I'm going to show you that in a second. The swatches, incidentally, were done on Bristol vellum paper. I'm going to talk about the paper in a second, and the how these pencils perform. This test here that you can see now, which is the layering test, the blending test, and I'm going to use some odorless mineral spirits. This is done on the Clairefontaine Paint On Mixed Media paper. So, again, a paper with a little bit of tooth. A lot of people want to know whether these pencils are wax or oil based. I don't get into that type of thing. I've already explained this, but I will do a video about this because a lot of people still ask me, and I think it's best if I explain it in a proper video rather than just talking about it in little bits in different videos. But the core of the Tombow Irojiten pencil is quite hard. And it's not, I wouldn't say that they are bursting with pigment, but they are definitely the type of pencil that if you are the type of colored pencil artist that enjoys doing layering, light layers, building up your layers, that type of thing, then you will enjoy these pencils. As you can see here on this layer test, so we've got 5 layers. So the first column here has 1 light layer, Second column has 2 light layers, all the way up to 5 light layers. And then the final square column has a single heavy application. So it just shows you, all this test does is it shows you, and by the way, when I do these the layer tests, I'm holding the pencil right at the very back, and I just let the weight of the pencil put down the pigment. So these are very, very light layers, and you can see here going from 1 to 5 all the way up there, there's definitely an increase in pigment levels. Then, like I say, you've got the final layer here, which is just a single heavy application. Now, I've used the kind of like the primary colors, like your red, yellow, and blue and green. When it comes to blending, again, using light layers and mixing these colors up, you can see here that with the yellow and the blue, I've got a really nice green. With the red and yellow, I've got a nice orange. And with the red and blue, I've got a really nice kind of like purple color. The Tombow Irojiten pencils are not the type of pencils that you would use in an adult coloring book. The adult coloring book pages don't have enough tooth. If you enjoy using paper such as like Bristol Vellum, mixed media paper, the Derwent Lightfast paper, or the Fabriano Artistico extra white hot press paper, those papers work really, really well with the Tombow Irojiten. And the artwork actually that I have done was done on the Derwent Lightfast paper. And when I was doing the artwork using these pencils on the Derwent Lightfast paper, the Derwent Lightfast paper it's almost like it's not sanded paper, but it's almost like sanded paper in terms of the amount of layers that you can get on there with pencils. I think that between the Derwent Lightfast paper and the Fabriano Artistico, if I'm just doing like an ordinary colored pencil piece, no markers, no anything else, just colored pencils, they're the two papers that I would go to. And I have to say that more often than not now, I reach for the Derwent Lightfast paper. It is, I know it's expensive, but my goodness, that paper is beautiful. And especially for slightly harder core pencils, and for the type of artists that like to really build up their layers and that type of thing. The Derwent Lightfast paper is just beautiful for that. And so with this, for the Tombow Irojiten pencils, the Derwent Lightfast paper was just beautiful, as was the Bristol Vellum paper when I was doing the swatch, and same here as well with the mixed media paper. Now, out of all three of those papers, I would definitely say that they worked much, much better on the Derwent Lightfast paper. But when I used these pencils on a Bristol smooth paper, I just wasn't able to get an awful lot of layering or anything like that done. The blending wasn't there either. I couldn't get there wasn't enough friction for me to build up those layers and then blend them in at the last two layers. So I would definitely say if you prefer the really, really smooth papers like Bristol Smooth, the Tombow Irojiten may not be for you. But if you're quite happy to use like a vellum or a mixed media paper, then I think you would really enjoy these pencils. And obviously, of course, that you like to build up your layers. Like I said, like I've shown you here, the blending has worked really well. The only thing that I haven't done yet is see how they react with odorless mineral spirits. And I'm going to do that now here. So just let me zoom in for you. Okay, so all I'm using here is just some zested odorless mineral spirits. I personally don't use odorless mineral spirits for the artwork that I do. 9 times out of 10, I will just use the pencils and allow them to mix the colors together. it's just a personal thing. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with using odorless mineral spirits. I personally just don't like it. But nevertheless, I know it's important to test and to show you guys how well a pencil will react to odorless mineral spirits or not. So this is a first for me. So I'm just going to start off here in the dark. Somebody had said to me a while in one of the other videos that I was using far too much odorless mineral spirits. I think it's all really just down to personal preference. I've seen people use loads, like they'll plaster it on, and then some people will almost dry out their brush. They'll dip it in the odorless mineral spirits and dry it out, and then use it that way. So I think it's like so many other things in art. It's down to personal preference how you want to apply your odorless mineral spirits. But so far, as you can see here, it's reacting quite well. It's breaking down quite well with the odorless mineral spirits. Now, for anybody that's new to colored pencils and they are wondering why would you use odorless mineral spirits, so when we talk about the tooth of the paper, the tooth of the paper is just the texture of the paper. And if your paper has got a little bit of texture to it, it's going to help you. It's going to help the pencils to deposit color onto that paper a little bit better than, say, if it's got like a smooth surface. And you can see here, when you color an area in with colored pencils, if you're building up light layers, you'll always have these little white bits of paper underneath. And so once you've put about 4 or 5 layers of pencil down, which is the reason why that's the amount of layers I do in my tests. But once you've put about 4 or 5 layers down, you can then come in with your odorless mineral spirits, do what I'm doing here, break the colored pencil down, and basically turn it into kind of to give you like this painterly effect. But ultimately what it does is it fills in the white of the paper. But where the real benefit, in my opinion, comes from using odorless mineral spirits is once you fill in the tooth of the paper with your layers of colored pencils, it prevents you from putting more layers down. And you will eventually get to a certain part where the pencil is resistant and it's not really, putting any more layers down. Well, once you use odorless mineral spirits, that reinvigorates the tooth of the paper, and it really allows you then to come back and add more layers to the piece that you're doing. And it just allows you then to, keep layering, adding rich color and building up depth and all the other good things that you can get from when you layer with colored pencils. So you can see here that with the Tombow Irojiten pencils on this Clairefontaine paint on mixed media paper, it worked really, really well. It broke down quite nicely. And what I could do now is come back in with the colours that I used for this and build it all up again and just, refine that sphere. But I'm not going to do that because that wasn't the test that I was doing. I was just showing you how the Tombow Irojiten breaks down with odorless mineral spirits. I think when you do this type of thing as well, it's obviously, I think, again, it's personal preference, but if you use a slightly stiffer brush, the brush I'm using is quite soft. A slightly stiffer brush would give you perhaps better results. I'm no expert with odorless mineral spirits, mind you, but there you have the test. The artwork that I did with the Tombow Irojiten is this botanical piece, these acorns, and I was really, really impressed with how this turned out. The colours blended beautifully. I was able to just layer until the cows came home. There was no problems with layering whatsoever, and I was able to get really nice textures on this botanical piece all the way through it. So that was a combination of paper and pencil, and that's why it's so important to stress the importance of getting the right paper for the right pencil, and it is as scientific as that. You know, you could get a block of paper, and you could have 10 different brands of pencils, and maybe 5 of those brands will work really well with that one block of paper, but the other 5 just will not work. That doesn't mean that the pencils are rubbish or useless or anything like that. It just means that you haven't found the right paper for those pencils. In all the years I've been doing these reviews, the one thing I have learned is that for every coloured pencil that you use, there is a paper out there that will enhance that coloured pencil, that will make that coloured pencil, make you love that coloured pencil. You will use that pencil on that paper and just go, wow, these pencils are amazing. I was really, really pleased that I came back and bought these other sets and bought the entire set. Like I say, one vital difference between back then and now is that you can now buy these pencils open stock. So if you go to Emma at the colored pencil shop, she now sells these pencils open stock. And when I first did my review of these pencils, at least here in the UK, you could not buy them open stock, which was a big issue for anybody wanting to use them. Now, the other thing that people might have an issue with is the Lightfast Ratings. As with any set of colored pencils, right? If they are Lightfast tested under ASTM or the Blue Wool scale, it'll say something. It'll be easy to find that those pencils are done under those scales, because it costs a lot of money to get them done like that, and the companies tend to be quite proud of the fact that their pencils have reached those standards required. If there's nothing on the sets, and I couldn't find anything here, I would suggest that these pencils, if there are Lightfast ratings, and I think on the swatch, although it's in Japanese, I think there might be some Lightfast information on there. If I'm not mistaken, somebody had said that in the first time I done these reviews, but obviously I'm not Japanese, I can't read that. But regardless, if it is there, it's more than likely in-house Lightfast tested. And so what I would say is then, if it's in-house Lightfast tested, I wouldn't suggest doing artwork that you're going to sell with the Tombow Irojiten until somebody can clarify 100% that they're done either ASTM or Blue Wool. I wouldn't suggest using these for artwork that you are going to sell the original for. Now, obviously, if you do some artwork and you create prints with it, that's a completely different thing. Or if you do some artwork and you sell it behind UV protected glass, that type of stuff, and you let the buyer know that it needs to be behind that type of glass in order for it to maintain its color, then again, that's separate. Like I said, there's nothing I could find about whether these pencils are done under either the ASTM or the Blue Wool scales. So that's the only downside that I would say these pencils have. Now, with regards to pricing also, I have the prices over in the Art Gear Guide. You can go across, you can find out how much an individual pencil is if you go and buy it from Emma at the Colour Pencil Shop. And also the boxes as well. I think Emma sells the boxes occasionally. But even if you can't get them from Emma, I'll have prices over there from Emma and from Amazon. So the links that I have over in the written review will take you to the Colored Pencil shop, and it'll also take you to Amazon. When I look for prices on Amazon, it's just because it's a global store and it's much easier to get things like that. But also as well, with people like Emma, I try to support amazing artists like Emma who are working so hard to make sure that they provide for us colored pencil artists in the way of being able to purchase open stock pencils from Emma. So I'm always happy to try and help out where I can for people like Emma, who Emma does fantastic work. I'm sure if you've bought from Emma in the past, you will understand what I'm talking about. But the good thing is now, so in conclusion, the entire set is now 100. You can purchase these pencils open stock from the Colored Pencil shop. You might be able to get them from other places in America and all the rest and all these other countries, but I can't search every country and find out if they're sold open stock in that country or not. So if you live in a different country and you know you can buy these pencils open stock there, then please let me know in the comment section down below, or let other people know in the comment section down below. And that's really about it. Like I say, guys, I've got a bit more information over on the written review that I can get away with changing as and when things change. So if you want to know, go across to the written review and you can Skype out a little bit of extra information over there. If you've got any questions about these pencils, please by all means leave it in the comments section down below, and I will get back to you as soon as I possibly can. And if I don't know the answer, I'll certainly reach out to Tombow and see if they can give me a definitive answer one way or the other. Thank you so much, guys, for all your wonderful support. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. And I really look forward to seeing you again in the next video. I have been pushing these reviews out, so I've been working such long hours and trying to get these out because of all the time that I lost over Christmas, and I feel now that I'm really now on top of things again, so I want to keep the momentum up and just keep things going. I look forward to seeing you again in the next video, guys. Thanks very much. Bye.